Welcome back to the deep dive. Look, if you've ever wanted a real shortcut, maybe not a shortcut, but a clearer path into understanding Chinese mythology, specifically the massive story that is Fengshen Yanyi, the investiture of the gods, well, you're in the right spot.
Definitely. Because today we're zeroing in on one character who is just fascinating. He's not just part of the story. His existence is like this huge hinge point in cultural history.
And that character is Jieyin Daoren.
Jieyin Daoren, exactly. And what's so interesting, kind of paradoxical really, is he's this major figure in a fundamentally Taoist epic, but he essentially becomes the mythological blueprint for Buddhism in China.
So our mission today, basically, is to pull apart who this guy is, what he actually does during the Big God War, and how he ends up being this perfect example of cultural fusion in Chinese religion.
Right. We want to get to the core of his identity and his function, especially that surprising link to Buddhism's later spread.
Okay, let's dive right in then, because the very first thing you need to grasp about him is his status. It's huge. The sources all agree Jieyin Daoren is one of the Han Yuan sages.
Yeah, and you can't just gloss over that title, Han Yuan Sage. You have to think about what that means in this universe. It puts him at the absolute top, same level as figures like Yuanshi Tianzun, Taisheng Laojun.
The really big names.
The biggest. They're all disciples of the ultimate source, Hongjun Laozu. So this isn't just some minor immortal wandering in.
So, okay, if you've got these lesser immortals who are caught up in reincarnation cycles and this scary killing catastrophe thing, what does being a Han Yuan sage actually get you?
Well, it basically means you're immune. You're above all that chaos. You exist outside those cycles.
While everyone else is fighting for their lives.
Exactly. While the Chan and Ji teachings are locked in this deadly struggle because their followers are subject to cosmic payback, the Han Yuan sages like Jieyin, they're operating on a whole different level.
Which means when he does decide to step into the story,
it's a massive deal. It's not just another player arriving. It's a cosmic intervention. It fundamentally changes the game.
Right. Okay, let's get down to the basics then. His divine resume, so to speak. Name, Jieyin Daoren. Affiliation, the Western teachings, or Shifangjiao.
And that term, Western teachings, that's basically the story's way of talking about what would become Buddhism. Yeah, it's the mythological placeholder.
Got it. And he's the leader.
He's the main leader, yes, but the sources always show him with his key partner, his disciple, who's also kind of a co-leader, Zhunti Daoren.
Oh, okay, so they're a team.
Always. They represent the spiritual leadership of the West in the story, kind of waiting in the wings for the right moment to get involved in the East's problems.
But the name itself, Jieyin, you said that holds the real key.
It absolutely does. Because the name is the mission. Jieyin literally translates to something like to guide and lead beings, specifically.
You them out of suffering.
Precisely. To guide sentient beings out of the sea of suffering. So right away, his name tells you his entire purpose. He is compassionate salvation. It's not just an idea it talks about. It's his very essence.
And his look, his visual depiction in the story, that reflects this too, doesn't it? It sets him apart.
Oh, completely. The iconography is so deliberate. When he shows up, think about it. He's wearing a kasaya, the saffron robe you associate with Buddhist monks.
Even though he's technically a Taoist sage in this context.
Exactly. That's the point. He holds a lotus, wears a jeweled crown. He's bathed in this intense golden light, often standing on a lotus platform.
It's a very different vibe from the other Taoist figures.
Absolutely. It's an image of peace, compassion, nonviolence. It's a stark, calculated contrast to the, bearded sages with their magic weapons and martial stances. It's like a visual argument for a whole different path.
Okay, that sets things up perfectly for his big moment during the investiture of the gods. The whole story revolves around this war between the Shang and Zhou dynasties.
Which spirals into this massive theological war between the gods, yeah. The Chan teaching backing Zhou, the Ji teaching backing Shang.
And this war is what triggers the killing catastrophe, the Shaji.
Right, the killing catastrophe. That's the cosmic justification for everything. Basically, too many immortals, even some high-ranking ones, had messed up. They'd accumulated too much bad karma, too much attachment, too much conflict.
So they needed a reset.
Kind of. They weren't worthy anymore, so they had to face this retribution. Which, in the story, means getting killed so their spirits can be put on the investiture list and assigned new, lesser jobs as celestial functionaries.
Okay, so the Eastern sages, like Yuanshi Tianzun, are kind of managing this necessary, albeit destructive, process. How does Jieyin Daoren, the Western outsider, fit in? What's his approach?
He offers a completely different path. He and Zhunti only arrive on the scene in the Central Lands when the violence is at its absolute peak.
Right, when the list is almost full and the fighting is just overwhelming.
Exactly. They represent the West geographically and spiritually, and they come offering, well, an alternative solution, a different doctrine entirely.
So what was their main message? How did it differ from what the warring sages were pushing?
Well, while the Eastern sages were all tangled up in power, cultivation methods, who's winning, who's losing, Jieyin Daoren comes in preaching purely compassion. Sibi.
Just compassion.
That's the core. He and Zhunti essentially offer a spiritual escape route. They weren't telling immortals fight harder or accept your fate on the list. No, they were saying, abandon this whole conflict, stop fighting, come west with us.
Come west for what?
For salvation, for peace, for an end to the suffering inherent in this cycle of conflict and retribution.
Wow. That's introducing a radically different religious idea right into the heart of this like foundational Taoist war epic. It's almost like inserting Buddhist philosophy retroactively.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
By showing up during the killing catastrophe, they're planting the seeds for Buddhist Dharma, Fofa. They weren't just trying to stop the fighting in the moment.
They were recruiting.
They were harvesting souls. They specifically went after powerful, worthy disciples from the rival Jieyin Daoren, teaching ones who were maybe disillusioned or just caught in the crossfire, and convince them, hey, leave this mess, follow the Western teachings.
So going back to the name Jieyin, guiding the lost, they were literally guiding these high-level recruits out of the war and into their new system. Yeah. That serves a narrative purpose, but also a bigger cultural purpose for the authors. Right?
No, multiple purposes. Narratively, yeah, it helps thin out the ranks and bring the war towards its conclusion. But culturally, it's brilliant. It creates this seamless mythological backstory for why Buddhism eventually became so influential in China centuries later.
It gives it legitimacy.
Exactly. It makes Buddhism seem not like some foreign import, but something with roots going way back, championed by these ancient, incredibly powerful sages who were there before historical Buddhism even existed.
Okay, let's pivot a bit then, talking about synthesis. Let's look at the symbolism and his lasting impact. Beyond just recruiting people during the war, what did Jieyin Daoren come to represent?
Well, symbol number one we've hit hard. Compassionate salvation. Sibei Pudu. Leading beings out of the muck and confusion.
Right.
But symbol two is about where he leads them to. He becomes the lord of the Western Pure Land. Shifang Jingtu Zizu.
The ultimate destination.
Sure.
The payoff for following the Western teachings.
That's it. After the whole Fengshen War wraps up, Jieyin and Zhunti head back west. But they don't just, retire. They establish the land of ultimate bliss, the Jilishiji.
And this becomes the place for
those, the Yuan Jiren, those people with fate, the ones with the right karmic connection or affinity for these teachings.
What does being with fate actually mean here? Is it just being lucky?
It's more about having the spiritual groundwork laid, having the capacity, maybe through past good deeds or inherent nature, to understand and accept the teachings of compassion, to be ready for rebirth in this pure land.
Which offered a different kind of afterlife.
A very different kind. It offered a way out of the constant cycle of reincarnation, struggle, and rebirth that even most of the high-level Eastern immortals seemed stuck in. It promised eternal peace.
Okay, this feels like the core of what you call the Buddha Taoist synergy. The Photo Heliu. This is the big aha moment, isn't it?
This is absolutely it. The synergy is right here. The authors of Fengshen were basically saying, look, the highest figures in Buddhism, they were originally Taoist sages who achieved their ultimate purpose by evolving into these compassionate beings.
And Jieyin Daoren specifically.
He is the direct, unambiguous mythological prototype for Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha.
That's huge. That gives Buddhism this incredible pedigree within the whole Chinese mythological framework. And you mentioned Zhunti Daoren is crucial here too. Their partnership is key.
Oh, essential. They're the co-founders. You can't separate them. And their dynamic is important too. Jieyin is often seen as the wisdom, the teacher, the more Wen or civil aspect.
The philosopher.
Kind of. Well, Zhunti Daoren. He's often the one with the powerful magic items, the divine protector. He's the Wu, the martial aspect.
So one teaches, one protects.
Basically, yeah. It shows that the Western teachings needed both that soft power of wisdom and compassion, represented by Jieyin, and the hard power, the means and protection provided by Zhunti to actually establish their way and guide those destined souls.
That dual nature leads right into their final transformation, their legacy.
Yeah.
Because these characters didn't just stay in the book, did they? People started worshiping them.
Absolutely. As the Fengshen story concludes, these sages effectively transition out of the purely Taoist hierarchy and become the great Buddhist figures. Jieyin Daoren fully steps into his role as Amitabha Buddha, the Buddha presiding over the Western Pure Land.
And Zhunti.
Zhunti transitions into Zhunti Bodhisattva. They complete their evolution, so to speak.
And in popular religion, for the average person over the centuries, that distinction between the Taoist sage and the Buddha, it just melts away.
Completely melts away. The fusion becomes absolute. In later folk belief, Jieyin Daoren is Amitabha Buddha. His whole identity becomes synonymous with that function of salvation.
You mentioned his full devotional title really captures this.
It perfectly encapsulates his job description, yeah.
What is it again?
He's known as Nanmo Western Land of Ultimate Bliss, Jieyin Great Vow Amitabha Buddha, Nanmo Shifang Shijiji Jieyin Daoism Amitabha.
Wow. Break that down.
Okay, so Nanmo is like homage or taking refuge. Western Land of Ultimate Bliss is the destination. Jieyin, there's his core function again, guiding. Great Vow refers to the vows Amitabha made to save all beings, and then Amitabha Buddha. Every single part points to his role. The one who vowed to guide the spirits of the dead, the wangling across the sea of suffering to the peace of the Pure Land.
The ultimate spiritual ferryman.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, let's try and wrap this incredible journey up. We started with this super elite Taoist sage, basically immune to the cosmic drama unfolding.
Right, existing above the fray.
Who then strategically enters this story about a Chinese dynasty change, which is really a war among gods. He acts as this crucial catalyst, introducing these, well, Buddhist concepts of compassion.
Offering an alternative path out of the violence.
And his journey west after the war solidifies his destiny, culminating in his identity merging completely with Amitabha Buddha, the guide to the Pure Land.
Yeah, it's a seamless integration.
He really is the ultimate symbol of that cross-doctrinal synthesis in Chinese religious thought. It shows how new ideas get woven in, how they're adopted by essentially writing them into the existing cosmic family tree.
It really does. And, you know, that leaves us with something interesting to think about, especially for you listening. This whole idea of Jieyin, the compassionate guide. It was introduced into the story right at the peak of the killing catastrophe.
A time of maximum chaos, confusion, suffering, even for the gods.
Exactly. So given that this figure, this compassionate guide, has stayed so incredibly popular for centuries, millennia even, what does that enduring appeal tell us about, well, us? About humanity's deep, recurring need for spiritual direction, for hope, especially when things feel chaotic or uncertain. That's really the fundamental promise of the Jain Buddha, isn't it? Whether you're talking about the mythological chaos of the Fengshen War, the real struggles people face, it's that promise of guidance out of suffering, something to ponder,